So, faces of actors in video games. There aren't many instances of video games that feature faces of famous actors or musicians. For the most part, you can count them on one hand. Recently it was Beyond Two Souls with Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe, Quantum Break with its list of relatively known actors from TV series, and its implemented in-game miniseries, LA Noire and a few others. You might be wondering, is there a specific purpose why game developers do this? Why put all of this much effort in creating a character that will be played by a real-life well-known actor, as well as a voiceover by him or her? Most of the obvious answers might be financial reasons, attracting an even bigger audience than before. But there is a catch, however. Film audiences and video game audiences are not specifically the same. There can be fans of both mediums, certainly, but they do not necessarily overlap. And very few gamers watch that much TV shows and movies to be able to fully recognize every face they might encounter in a video game. Other theory is that using real-life actors might give the character a new life of its own, make him express emotions that otherwise an in-game character wouldn't have been able to express. For the most part, however, there is still plenty of problems with the implementation of real-life actor faces onto game characters. Animations might be a bit janky, not fully thought out. Another important argument is that they might detract from the game itself. Instead of focusing on the story of the game or how you see yourself within this world, you focus on the actor and which previous roles you have seen by him you associate him with. Everything that the character will be doing in the game, the points of the story, major consequences he has to go through will be seen through the lens of that actor by the player. I definitely feel that this is still a gray area for the world of video game industry, since this isn't by any means quite a problem for films, seeing as how there's plenty of actors that have jumped from one role to the next, the best ones being drastically different from the previous one. What if the quality of the game doesn't quite match the kind of caliber of actors that the game is using? The game might be lacking good gameplay, story, or even the design might be not that well executed or thought out. The very early example of the game that used real faces of real-life people was Max Payne, where the face of its creator and chief writer Sam Lake was used. At that time, Remedy Studios was on a tight budget and couldn't afford real actors, so they had to use what they could to get the job done. The game later became iconic and gathered a massive audience, afterwards spawning an excellent sequel, Max Payne 2: The Fall of Max Payne, as well as the third game, which was developed by an entirely different studio, Rockstar Games, which was the publisher of the first game in installment. Another example is of course the other game that was developed by Quantic Dream, Omikron: The Nomad Soul. The game starred David Bowie, who not only provided facial animations as well as the voiceovers to the game, but had also contributed to the game's story and game design, as well as writing music for the game. The actor-musician played two roles in the game, first as Buzz, a revolutionary that is wanted by the authorities, as well as with his fictional band called The Dreamers, that was usually performing in bars around Omikron City in the game world. A really good example of this is the new game from Hideo Kojima, Death Stranding. Very little things are known about the game at this moment, but most of the trailers that had been released featured the actor Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen, as well as film director Guillermo del Toro. It does feel a bit strange that instead of showing us any gameplay elements or mechanics, we are presented with an eerie, mysterious trailer where we see naked Norman Reedus with handcuffs on the shore of some sea holding a baby with a wire connected to his belly button in his hands and crying, as well as some strange bodies levitating in the sky and a bunch of dead fish and whales thrown to the shore. We might be seeing a trend here. The trailer even shows us in the very beginning Norman Reedus in Death Stranding. Maybe more and more actors will start taking on different roles in video games, and there will be more intersection of both mediums. Kind of like we're starting to see with TV shows, with TV series taking up a bigger role in the entertainment industry, and everybody paying more attention to them than the movies like it was in the past. Maybe it's the beginning of something grand, where people might start taking video games more seriously as a medium and an art form. A lot of this, of course, has to do with the ever-improving graphics that is getting more detailed as time goes on. All of this should be great news to game developers and game fans around the world.